What is up, guys? It's I Can Swim here. So today we're going to be doing something a little different. So what we're going to do here is go over the Tour 9 shootouts in Golf Clash. So a lot of people have... It can be challenging because there can be varying winds, as well as the adjustments can just be more or less unclear. So what we're going to do is go through as many shootouts as I can grab without letting this video run too long. And that way it'll give a good base for anyone, whether you're new to Tour 9 or an experienced Tour 9 player. You're going to have a resource to go and see the general adjustments for each shootout. So without further ado, let's jump into this and get some great guides put together for each of the Tour 9 shootout holes. Oh, before I forget, let's just briefly go over the clubs you're going to want to use for Tour 9. There's lots of videos covering this and lots of resources to cover it, but I just want to make sure everyone's aware of the general decisions you're going to want to make on this tour. So, as far as shootouts go, you're going to want a club with more backspin. So there's going to be some situations where you will need, let's say, your Apocalypse or, we're going to say lower level extra mile. Or even Thor's Hammer to some extent, but until it's level 4 to 5, best if you can avoid it. So, looking at my clubs here, we can see I have Apocalypse 4, Quarterback 10, Extra Mile 7. Thor's Hammer really isn't going to be a contender at this point, just because it doesn't have enough of the developed stats we look for. So, there will be times where you will need the Apocalypse's topspin. This can be some of the Arcadia courses. Don't get me started on those, but it can be helpful on those longer par 5s. Otherwise, when possible, always try to stick to quarterback because the extra backspin is going to give you the edge in the shootouts. Level 9, I believe it still has the same backspin stat, so quarterback 9 to 10, you're going to be golden in shootouts. It's really going to give you an upper hand because of that backspin stat and the ball guide. It's really gonna just put you in your own league. So when possible, try to stick to the quarterback. In the event it's a longer course and you do need a little more distance, the extra mile is going to be a very solid club even at level 7. So let's jump in. Alright, we're headed to the shootout. Let's go. So first up, we have my favorite. So, on this one, it is very important that we do not over-adjust. By any means, do not over-adjust at all. Honestly, I'm going to recommend even hitting slightly great on the right, just to avoid that rough on the left if you're hitting higher up. And the higher we hit up on that hill here, the better the bounce and the farther it's going to roll along this top part to the pin. And this is going to be critical because the more time it spends on that fairway patch above the green, the better the roll is going to be down to the pin and the better the line will be. I like to play this one with somewhere around 1 topspin. So kind of like what this guy did, but we want to get it even a little farther along that fairway patch. But I like to play this one usually at about 1 topspin, 1 to 1.5. If you're in headwind, maybe closer to 2. And that way it's just going to give it a real nice line. Also keep in mind that we're going to want to use about 50% curl. And I'll show you guys in a sec here. So I'm going to go... let's go just about there. And then we're going to go, so no over adjustments, this will be just 5 rings. And then we're going to go about 50%, just a touch more. and hit it great on the right. And actually, that caught a real nice line. See how it stuck up on the fairway there? Quite nicely. And that should... Oh, get back there, get back there. Okay. Whew. All right, dodged a bullet there. And that's good enough for the win. It's really that easy, and it's very consistent to play it like that. So that's Shootout 1. Let's move on to the next one. Oh yeah, all right. So we're back to this shootout. This is again, my favorite one. So we're gonna play this one the exact same way we just played it, and that's gonna be, it is a stronger tailwind, so I'm gonna go 1 topspin. And the beauty of the Apocalypse is we have a little more freedom with the curl. It's got a lot more than Extra Mile, for example. So I'm going to over adjust just a touch because it's tailwind. And we're going to go curl just about like that. Again, hitting it great just to avoid. And this one should get a real nice bounce. And see how much that's stuck on the top? That's what we want. And that nice wide entrance onto the green is really going to give it the optimal roll down to the pin. And that is going to be a very tough shot to beat. But as we saw, we used about 50% curl, give or take, 1 topspin because it was tailwind, a slight over adjustment just to compensate for the extra push from the wind, and we got a nice roll. It stuck to that little patch of fairway above the green for as long as possible, and a nice wide roll in. Those are the most important factors when we're in this kind of shootout situation on this hole, and they all worked out really, really well. So this should be a nice win, and we'll just see what our opponent does here, but this should play out nicely in our favor. But that is the kind of reliable approach we can look for and rely on when playing this shootout. And that's good enough for the win. So it's that simple, guys. That was 2 very, very solid approaches to this hole. And that should give a nice foundation for how to play this one. And I will see you guys on the next one. Alright, here's a great shootout. So this one we're going to be playing, obviously, left side. And the trick here, this is where the quarterback is going to be invaluable. So, again, but most importantly, another one, do not over adjust. You will end up in the rough. It can be deadly. So we want to do, I play around 1 topspin just like the other shootout that was similar to this one. And what we want to do is a similar kind of thing where we want a nice bounce just the way the other one came in. And we want to make sure that we don't hit that top fairway. We want to keep it to the side as much as possible and have it roll along the green rather than that top part. So we're going to go 1 topspin, full right as always. And we're going to play this one nice and just like... So it's just under 8 rings for quarterback in this situation. I'm going to go, again, just about 50% curl and hitting it great on the right to avoid that rough. And this should be another really, really, really nice shot. We should get a nice funnel to the pin. And I think that's going to be good enough. So, again, just to recap, we want to make sure that we have quarterback ideally. We're going to play about 1 topspin, and we want to make sure we get a nice wide roll onto the green. That'll do it for this one. I'll see you guys on the next shootout. All right, let's jump into our next shootout. What do we got here? Perfect. This is one I really wanted. Hopefully he goes first. Okay, so I'll have to explain this one after. But we're going to play this one 30% right here. Because it's side-to-side wind, we want to make sure we're aiming just slightly to the left of the pin. I'm going to play about 4.5, just over, and line it up again to the left. So we're going to be looking at a 12 mile an hour adjustment, so that'll be about 12 rings when it's all said and done. And I'm still going to use a little bit of counter curl here, because that was directly side-to-side wind. And see how nicely that comes in? That was right on the money. So the important things to remember for this one are 30% over adjustment no matter what. I don't like playing the left side because you sometimes get a really unreliable bounce, so I always stick to the left side. In crosswind and tailwind, you want to line up just before the pin, 4.5 bars backspin, and you're going to want counter curl because of the strength of the wind and the over adjustment needed. So as you saw, just a little bit of counter curl should keep you fit on fairly straight line. And it's very, very consistent once you have it dialed in. Just always, even when it looks scary, you really, really just trust the adjustment because it will benefit you in the end and you will come out on top. In headwind, you want to play this one 35, even 40% if you have a strong headwind. If you're really, really uncomfortable, line up your adjustment so you're 4 to 5 squares past the pin in headwind. That way you're ensuring you make the leap and you get a nice roll to within a respectable distance. Anyways, it was that simple. Let's move on to the next one. Let's jump into it. And what are we going to get next? Ooh, this is a good one. So this is a situation where we will either be using either using a driver or a wood club. In this case, we're going to be using a wood club because it is tailwind. If it was headwind, we would use the driver. This one is going to be, hold on. This one is going to be 10% over. So 4.8 plus 10% will be 5.2, which is 5 rings. No counter curl. I've discovered it's more consistent in the later updates to just go without. But you also want to make sure you hit it perfect. Oh, that does look pretty good, gotta say. Okay, so that one was a little bit lucky. Great result, but I did hit it great. Try to hit it perfect. But this one's just important to remember. 10% extra. Make sure that ball guide is right to the pin. Nothing out of the ordinary there. And optionally, you can use a bit of counter curl. Like, I'm talking a smidge if you don't trust your ball guide. That's only in counter when the wind is right to left. If the wind is left to right, then you don't want to use any curl whatsoever. Just let the ball do its thing, because the green will slope to the right. And just like that, we're looking pretty good. A very, very consistent shootout, I find this one to be. So it's very easy to get it dialed in, and once you are dialed in, it will serve you very, very well. So let's move on to the next shootout. so I covered. Next up, we have, drum roll please. I don't actually know. What do we got? Alright, so this one, as we remember, it will be 10% extra again. Nice crosswind here. So again, we're going to be playing this one just barely touching the fringe there. And then see how the ball guide is going to roll nicely. And we're in max distance again, so we're going to be just under 7 rings. And this one, we're going to put curl because it's right to left. We're going to put a just small amount of curl. And let's see what happens. And see how nicely that rolled? That was the shot I was trying to demonstrate. Right there. Under 2 yards, that's very difficult to beat. But as we saw, it just trickled onto the green there and rolled so nicely and so gently down to the pin. So that was a very, very, very good shot. I'm very happy with that. And if that's your result, you should be too. Just always remember it's 10% over in right to left. Yeah, right to left wind. You're going to want just a small amount of counter curl to prevent the wind taking it to the left. You should get a nice result. I don't want to say every time, but often. I think we got him. Yeah, we did. So that was a very, very nice demonstration for this hole. So let's move on to the next one. All right, let's keep this going. What's next on the list? All right, we have this one again. So as we remember from earlier, 10% extra. And here's a great example. When it's pretty much straight crosswind, you can make a choice what you want to use. Because I have Apocalypse, I'm going to choose to go with I'm going to choose to go with Sniper, just because it's going to give me a better ball guide here. And then 10% extra will be 5 rings. And remember, we're not going to add any curl. And I hit it perfect this time, so that should be a nice result for us. See how nicely that's coming in? It's going to catch a bit of a turn there and funnel nicely to the pin, just like that. So the trick there is it's going to be deceptive to your eyes in the sense that you're going to want to put side spin and curl. We do not need the curl. You have to trust yourself and trust the adjustments. No curl, and trust that the ball guide will funnel it to the hole, which it does nicely. And this should be more or less an easy win. And then, just important in headwind, we're going to follow almost the same pattern. The ball guide's going to funnel to the hole. It's usually about 1 topspin, 0.5 to 1. And no curl. Just always remember, we do not need curl in this situation. Oh, that was a bad break. So, that'll do nicely though. We got 2 really great guides for this one. I'm really happy with it. Let's move this along.